Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk Yoga podcast. I'm Arundhati, and I have absolutely enjoyed all the messages and emails that you have sent me about episode 193, the mythical story behind Virabhadrasana, the story behind Warrior's Pose, about rage, devotion, and love. I created that episode not knowing if it would land and if you would find stories like that interesting. And so many of you have asked for me to do more mythical stories behind poses. And that's why I'm back with another pose today. But before I get into my storytelling mode, please remember to be on my monthly newsletter. I just sent one out yesterday. I send a newsletter out every month, and it has all the podcasts curated, some new blog posts that I write each month, and a whole bunch of other things, including any free resources, workshops, as well as any paid courses that are coming up. So, all of that is available on the newsletter. You can find the link to sign up for that in the show notes as well as in the podcast description. So, are you ready for another story about a pose? Let's get to it. Hi everyone, I'm Arundhati, and you've just tuned in to the Let's Talk Yoga podcast, your ultimate online destination for learning about yoga. Whether you're a seasoned yoga teacher or a curious yoga student, there's something for you here. Let this podcast be your virtual yoga school. We offer insights, inspiration, and loads of nerdy exploration of yoga along the way. But first, who am I? I'm an Indian immigrant yoga teacher living in America for the past decade. I have my own yoga school here in Seattle, and I'm also a Bollywood choreographer, and I've nurtured a thriving yoga community at my studio, as well as a global yoga audience through my courses and this podcast. Through this podcast, I intend to create a space for you, the yoga student and yoga teacher, to learn about yoga in depth. Think of this as your online yoga school, free teacher training coming to you every week. So grab your cup of chai and let's jump in. As we continue our series of exploring mythological roots of popular yoga poses, I will do my best to bring you a pose every month, at least till the end of the year. There are so many poses and stories about them that have been forgotten. And today's pose is not an exciting yoga pose for most people. In fact, today's asana is quiet, still, bare, and sometimes forgotten until the very end of class. And you guessed it right. I'm talking about Shavāsana, commonly known as corpse pose. Now, if you've been teaching or doing yoga for a while, you've seen that students sometimes skip this pose. Teachers end up squeezing time in this pose and really not letting students be there for very long. I'm guilty of that sometimes myself. Some students get out of Shavasana immediately and start checking their iWatch and their phone for notifications. And we just don't get the plot right when it comes to Shavasana. And we think we're lying down. We think we're lying down because we need a nap and the practice was challenging. It's not a big deal of a pose, but we completely miss the point. What if I told you that Shavasana isn't about lying down at all? What if I told you that behind this stillness is one of the most powerful stories in all of Indian mythology? It is a story about death, rebirth, surrender, and transformation. And that is the story behind Shavasana. Today, I'm bringing you two mythological stories about Shavasana, two completely different interpretations. And I want to draw a parallel at the end. Okay, so the first story begins with us exploring the word Shavasana. The word Shav or Shava is corpse. And in asana, it means a posture, a seat, a pose. So literally, corpse pose or the posture of the corpse is Shavasana. To most people, including me, this initially would sound very dark. But when I understood the deeper context of this pose and of yoga, I understood that death isn't an end, it's a return. It's a great release, a sacred pause before renewal. And that brings us to our mythological story, one that you may not have heard before. This is the story of Shava and the dance of Shiva. Once in a forest called Daruka lived a group of powerful sages. These sages were not ordinary. They had mastered rituals, mantras, austerities, and this power made them arrogant. They believed that they were greater than everyone, including the gods themselves. So to humble them, And to remind them of the true purpose of spiritual practice, Lord Shiva himself entered the forest. He didn't come as himself, he came in a disguise. He came as a naked, ash smeared, wild hair wanderer, a Digambara, clothed in nothing but the sky. His presence disturbed the sage's orders, but the wives were drawn to his energy, so their egos were inflamed. And in their anger, the sages created a sacrificial fire, and from that fire, they conjured a terrible creature, a beast like entity, a Shava, a corpse with no soul. They sent this corpse flying towards Shiva to attack him. But Shiva held the corpse and lay it down, and without a word, he lay upon it. The sages sent the corpse to attack. So this wild god, Shiva, the master of destruction and transcendence, chose to rest upon death itself. And in that moment, something changed. This wasn't a corpse anymore. It was Shavāsana, a posture made sacred not by what it was, but by how it was met. Shiva did not resist death. He did not fight it. He surrendered to it. He let it become a seat of awareness and a return to source. And that's what we do at the end of every class, if I'm being very honest. We return to stillness. So Shavasana isn't your mere cool down or nap time. It's symbolic death. It's a practice of letting go. Letting go of what? Letting go of effort, letting go of ego, letting go of achievement, and letting go of the very idea of who we think we are. It is a rehearsal for the final surrender, the most powerful reminder that everything we do on the mat is a preparation for how we live off the mat. In Tantric and Vedantic philosophy, lying in Shavasana represents the still point, the void between inhale and exhale, between doing and being, between life and death. So the goal is not just to rest the body, but also the vrittis, the mental fluctuations that keep us trapped in movement, identity, and noise. It is only when we are truly still that we can observe what is beneath. So as yoga teachers, make sure we don't breeze through Shavasana in our class planning, but we actually treat it with the same reverence as, say, a peak pose would be treated. Modern yoga celebrates strength, flexibility, and progress. But Shavasana asks you, can you let go? Can you lie still in the face of everything you've been taught to strive for? And that's what makes it so powerful and also very uncomfortable for a lot of people. In the lineage of Kashmir Shaivism and Advaita Vedanta, Shavasana represents the moment when the small self dissolves into the vast self. Again, it is symbolic death. It is a rehearsal for surrender. But what happens if we refuse to surrender? And that leads me to my next story. But before I share the next story, can you please remember to rate and review the Let's Talk Yoga podcast? And if you enjoy these mythical stories, can you share this episode with another yoga friend, maybe your YTT cohort, maybe your yoga teacher or studio, or even on social media? This helps us connect even more to our yoga, and it helps me to bring you the podcast week after week. So now let's get back to our story. The second story is called Kali and Rakta Bij. In the Devi Mahatmayam, there is a story of a demon named Rakta Bij. Now, Rakt or Rakta is blood, Bij is seed. So his name literally means blood seed. And he was given a terrifying boon. Every time a drop of his blood touched the ground, a new version of him would be born. So in battle, even the fiercest of gods and goddesses could not defeat him. Every time they struck him, he multiplied. So in this chaos, they summoned Kali. Kali is the fierce form of Shakti. She charged into the battlefield, wild and untamed. And with every strike, she drank his blood before it touched the ground. She swallowed every drop until Rakta Bij was fully destroyed. But in doing so, Kali became so consumed by her rage. She lost herself in destruction. She couldn't stop. She wouldn't stop. So the gods panicked and the world trembled. Finally, Shiva intervened. He lay himself down on the battlefield, and when Kali unknowingly stepped on Shiva, she realized what she had done. She stopped. Her tongue fell out in shame. If you've seen Kali, you know her tongue is hanging out. And she returned to her awareness. So what does Rakta Bij have to do with Shavāsana? Here, Rakta Bij is a symbol of our endless desire and how our mind keeps multiplying distractions and ego and our cravings. And many of us live in a world where we are chasing the next thing. We're addicted to doing. We're consumed by stimulation. We want more sensory pleasures. We're addicted to power. And like Kali, we may not even realize when we've gone too far and how to come back. That is where Shiva offers a different model. Instead of fighting, he lies down. He is still, he is watching, he's letting go. And in this contrast, we have two choices. We can be like Rakta Bij and be on a path of compulsive becoming rooted in ego and fear, or we can be like Shiva on the path of awareness, surrender, and liberation. And Shavāsana gives us a chance to choose. It asks, will you lie down like a corpse or will you rise like consciousness? So as yoga teachers, we have an opportunity and even a responsibility to reclaim Shavāsana as a sacred practice. So how we language Shavāsana matters. It's not just lying down, but it is literally the body dissolving into the earth. It is a practice of letting go, of letting our identity soften. So I would urge you to set aside time. You want at least 8 to 10 minutes in an hour-long class to let Shavāsana land. Remind students that Shavāsana is not optional. It is the culmination of everything that came before it. And tell these stories, share these myths in class or even in your teacher trainings. I've read messages that you sent me about how you were in classes where my Warrior 2 story was being retold on the podcast. These stories awaken the heart. You might just change someone's entire relationship with yoga with these stories. So next time you lie down in Shavāsana or you teach Shavāsana, remember, you are not collapsing, you are not resting, you're not taking a nap. You are returning. You are returning to awareness, to essence, and to the source. You are reenacting the sacred stillness of Shiva. And you are choosing not to multiply like Rakta Bij, but to surrender to the self. I shared 2 different stories to give you more context, and I hope you find this enriching and you enjoy it as much as I hope you will. Please tell these stories to your students, share it in classes, share it in your teacher trainings, or share this podcast with anybody who would feel excited to listen to stories behind poses. Teach it forward. And until next time, remember to get on the newsletter, remember to share this with a friend, and I will see you next week with another episode. And remember, stillness is where the real yoga begins. I'm Arundhati and I'm signing off. Until next week, take care. Bye-bye.